Hi, Mia. Welcome to the Retrox podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Laura.
So happy to have you here. I was telling you, I've been a long-term fan of yours, and I'm so excited to chat with you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Mia Sheridan, and I am the author of upwards of 30 books at this point. I think I've lost count, but somewhere around there. I started off writing just romance exclusively, real emotional type romance. And I kind of segued into the more romantic suspense genre, where it was kind of an equal amount of romance and suspense. And since then, I have segued off into romantic thrillers, which are darker and heavier on the thrill component than the romance. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio, with my husband, and three of our children have flown the coop, and we have one 15-year-old left at home. So I have lots more time to sit and come up with demented plots.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have so much to ask you, but I think we got to talk about romantic thrillers because I feel like this is like a unique niche. It's perfect for the people who like the thrillers, but they will like to have a little bit of romance, but then the romance readers to go thrill to that thriller space, to that darker space. I
Yeah.
think it's different than dark romance. There's actually a plot of suspense or a plot of things are moving. There's cliffhangers. There's pushing for the next propulsion. There's red herrings. You're just
Mhm.
trying to solve something. It's not
Mhm.
solving the murder or like you're being chased. And so talk to us about the writing process of putting this together, how you evolve from romance into adding these elements beyond romantic suspense to the thriller aspect of it.
So I think that initially, even though I was writing what were pretty much exclusively romance genre books, I always put a little bit of a mystery in there just to kind of keep people engaged and to have a more of a layered plot. And I really found that I was loving that component so much that I wanted to do more of it. And I wanted the story to hinge more on that underlying mystery than just the couple and how they meet and fall in love and all of that. So it really was kind of a natural change up for me, I guess. And I love the puzzle of telling a mystery. Like, where do you come in on it exactly? And you kind of know the whole thing from start to finish. So what parts of it do I let the reader know? What hints do I drop? All of that has just really been challenging, but in a really great way, especially when you write one genre. Not that it becomes formulaic, but you can do it backwards and forwards for good and for bad. Sometimes it doesn't feel as fresh when you're writing something that you've written 1,000 times or so it feels. So this has really just engaged my creativity, and yeah, I love the puzzle aspect of it.
We're going to talk about the fix, which is your latest release on one Kindle Limited as a read and listen. So if you want to listen to it, you're able to, or you want to tend to read and read on your Kindle and then listen to it, you have both options, which is amazing. The fix, I read it and it started with a bang. Started really with,
Yeah,
holy crap, what are we
you're in it.
and you're just diving into it
Yeah.
and without giving us spoilers, because we want to give them the surprise. Talk to us about the premise of this book.
Yeah, so the fix is about a teenage girl named Cami Cortland who suffers a horrific home invasion where her mother and her sister are brutally murdered. And then years later, she has managed to rebuild her life to the best of her ability. She's living a quiet existence. And she receives a disturbing phone call where a digitized voice asks her if she'd like a do over, and she receives a video of a little boy in a locked room and is invited to find him and rescue him in 4 days' time. So she reaches out to an ex classmate who was sort of tangled up in the initial crime and asks that he help her find this little boy. And they set off to do just that and to find out how the current crime relates to the initial crime. So that's the non spoilery blurb.
Yeah. How were you able to build this story out? Was it the crime came first? Was it the plot? Or which area, which part of the plot came first? And to build it on to make sense of it, to keep the reader engaged, but at the same time keep yourself surprised probably.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
got the line, close it out, which is that's more romantic. Some sort of happy ending, quote unquote.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. I plunged the reader, like, right into trauma immediately. I wanted to leave them in a good, hopeful, happy place where they receive justice and all that. And this one was a weird experience because I sort of started with the crime itself. I had been talking to a girlfriend of mine about a crime that happened near her hometown. It was a terrible home invasion that had rocked the whole community and still was pretty traumatizing to everybody who was around during that time when they thought back to it. And it struck me at the time what a particularly horrifying crime that one is. Like, any violent crime is awful, obviously, but to have something like that happen in your own home, at the place where you are supposed to feel safe and, your refuge from the world, it always makes my heart sort of like skip a beat when I think about that. I started thinking about what might have led to a similar situation like that. I sat down to write with that was basically all I had. And then I kind of pantsed this one along and came up with what was happening in the current day. It was a rough one for me. Actually, I wrote the ending. I didn't like the ending. I went and rewrote it again. There were just so many moving parts to this one. And I'm honestly shocked that it all came together the way it did. Shocked and happy about it because it ended up working out in the end, I think, for the most part. But it was not an ideal writing situation for me. So I'm particularly proud of this one because it put me through the ringer.
It does, and it has all the triggers. So readers check the trigger warnings, keeping in mind the triggers and the level of darkness that you embrace. How do you cope with it as a writer? Be in that place? Do you do something else outside of it? Do you consume different media to balance it out so you're not fully affected in the process?
Yeah, I hate to say that I'm not fully affected really because that sounds wrong. With people have asked me before, do you cry when you write your really sad romances? And I don't cry and I
Yeah.
don't really feel particularly it takes a lot out to write really emotional scenes because I'm pouring that part of myself into it too. But I think I come from the perspective that I know how it ends. I know everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I'm there as I'm writing, I'm comforting the characters like it's going to be okay. We're going to make it through this. I know what's on the other side to
Yeah.
get me through it. And so I don't sometimes I even have to remind myself, hey, people who are reading this don't have that perspective. So go easy on them. And editors help me out with that a lot too. They're able to say, hey, can we like dial this back a little bit here? Or this took me
Yeah.
by surprise or whatever. So it's definitely a team effort to make sure
Yeah.
that
And obviously it does, it's romantic thriller, so it does have the tidy up ending. And I think it's
yes.
for there's a light on the other tunnel, which
Mhm.
sometimes some lives it may not have that, but I think in this place you're giving the reader some satisfaction where you're not gonna kill off that person, you know,
Right,
last
exactly.
chapter and not have it. So you're allowing them to have some sort of hope of some sort.
Yes, and there's that the romance is always even though it's the minority of the plot, it's that soft place to land. I slow it down here and there to give them time to fall in love and have that time together, which can be difficult in the midst of murder and mayhem. But
Yeah.
I think that's something that helps the balance the dark aspect as well.
Awesome. All right, so let's talk some books. What kind of books do
Yes.
you tend to read?
I read anything and everything. Thinking about the books I wanted to talk about with you, I just was like all over the map. And that's just been my reading life since I was a kid. And I definitely spent many years gobbling up romance. So maybe that will always have the largest place in my heart. And it's also ministered me through lots of rough times in my own life. There's always there's that genre to turn to when life feels hard and rough and you're looking for that hope, that lightness, that reminder that love, if it doesn't solve every problem, it can certainly help cushion the blows.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, and I've always loved thrillers. Stephen King was one of my favorites growing up, and when I went to the library and saw that he had a bookshelf there that was like 2 whole shelves, I was, like, giddy about it. But yeah, I think the only genre I don't really read a lot of is fantasy.
I'm the same way. It's just so
Really?
good. Yeah. So
Interesting.
I am like I read popcorn thrillers, like a lot of thrillers, and then I
Mhm.
discovered mysteries, like old types of mystery. I actually like I'm doubling into different romantic thrillers to the crime procedurals to a little bit of everything. And it's been a nice shift because I was reading romance exclusively for a long time. And it was like,
Yeah.
well, like there's something to be said. The husband did it or both.
Yes.
Which one could we have?
Yes, exactly.
I think you're on a reality where it allows you to figure out like for your life, like how will you approach this? How will you be in this place? And sometimes experiencing seeing characters experiencing triggers allows you to be like, okay, how do I reflect it in myself as triggers? Like how does it actually work for me? Or do I have other options to cope with? I think that's the beauty of books. It allows you to not only to have empathy on other people's stories, but also allows you to explore within yourself, which is kind of like fun.
Exactly. Yes, and it also I think too, just when I've read darker thrillers where somebody has experienced a really tragic situation, just to watch them survive it and to overcome it is so healing for me personally. Just even if I haven't experienced that particular type of crime or trauma or whatever it is, just to watch the strength of the human soul in moving through dark times.
Yeah, the resiliency. Like a lot of
Yes.
people are scrappy. A lot of people figure it
Yes.
out. I'm someone who has a PTSD of like just a terrible childhood. And what I realize is like the other side is what's giving me. And books were that escape. Books were
Mhm,
the way
mhm.
to kind of like
Yeah.
just escape from. And we call it dissociation, but it can be something, it can just transport you. And it can be
Mhm.
like, it taught me how to have a healthy relationship, how to have healthy friends. And it's like, that's the power of books.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's so true. I mean, I books literally can change the world, change lives, change the world, lift you out of your circumstances even for a time and give you the a different perspective and hopefully make all of us want to act in the way that these heroines confront adversity and at least strive for that. So I'm with you there.
All right, let's pick some book recommendations. Which books do you want to recommend our listeners to pick up?
Okay. This is so hard. It's like the hardest question ever, but I had to go with The Road. Have you
Yeah.
read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, right? I should have written down all the authors too. I read The Road so many years ago. I mean, I never reread books because I always want that first impression to stay with me because there's something, it feels so special and it feels like you can never reclaim your first reaction to a book. And it probably has a lot to do with where you were and who you were when you read that particular story. So I never do, but that's one that I always think I'd like to re-experience because even now, some of the lines, maybe not verbatim, but still repeat in my head from that book. It was just so impactful for me. And it was so like, I think it was filled with so many contradictions. Like it was frightening, but it was also tender and it's beautiful, but it's so hard. And so I think everybody should experience that one. Have you read that one?
Like in the 90s, like a long time ago. I'm like, I remember being like, it's fucked. So I was like, I think it was recommended by Oprah at that point at some point.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it was like this seminal text. I remember the cover. It's red. It's a card
Yes.
and it's
Yes, I can
black.
picture it.
I remember the experience, but yeah, I definitely should look it back. Like it probably 30 years later, it'll probably be a very different text to look at.
Yeah.
And
It's definitely one that's stayed with me,
yeah.
over decades, probably at this point, so I had to mention that one. And then another one that I had to go with is The Thornbirds. Have you read that one?
No, tell me all
Ugh,
about it.
gosh. I mean, literally I could start crying right now just talking about it. I think I read that book way too young, first of all. I probably was like 10 or 12, I don't know, like way too young for something that emotionally heavy.
Yeah.
But I just remember just sobbing my eyes out after reading that book. It's so painful. It's one of the most painful stories of forbidden love that I've
Yeah.
ever read in my life to this day. It's a family saga too, and so you feel like it's like one of those books when you put it down, you feel like you come out of a daze, like you were there, you were in that, I think, Australian outback, if I'm
Yeah.
correctly. You were there in that dust and that heat with that family, and you come out of it and you're like, "What is this life? What is this life? This is not where where I'm supposed to be." It was that immersive, and again, just the dagger to my heart with that love story. Oh, Lord.
All
So,
right. I'm
yeah.
gonna pick that one up.
Don't do it. No, I know I'm really selling this one, right?
But you books are like family song. It's gonna break my heart. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. And then
Huh.
the predictions of the road. I was like, I remember reading it. It'll be interesting to read it. I read it probably in teenage years, and it'll be interesting middle age, like what it looks like now.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
what
Oh,
we know as an adult,
I
it's
know. I
very
know, and
different.
how we see the world so differently too. So, yeah, that would be an interesting re-experience for
Yeah.
What else do I have? The other one that I had to mention was the Poisonwood Bible. Have
Oh
you read that
yes,
one?
yes, Oprah. That
Yeah.
was an
Oh, really? Was
uh,
that another Oprah book?
that was
Okay,
an older
maybe I was
Oprah.
going through Oprah's
We
at
were
the time.
going through it. This is I remember that. Oh my gosh. Yes, this is the one with the they're in Africa, I think. Is that
Yes. It's
yeah.
about a missionary and his family travel to Africa to spread the love of Jesus to these tribes. And is it Atwood? I think
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I should have written down the names of the authors. Margaret Atwood,
Well,
is that
no, this is Barbara Kinsolver.
Barbara
That's
Kingsolver. How could yes. And she really manages this sort of like prickly balance between religion and race and colonialism and all these really tough topics with this beautiful humor and humanity. And it's just really one of the most beautiful books I've ever read and enjoyed. So a
gosh.
must read.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're just taking me back. I'm like, oh my, it's like I see myself reading those books at an age where I had no safety, where I was just like, this is like an escape. And now being the other
Mhm.
side, I'm like, what do it look like to read those books now that I'm safe, that I'm unconditionally, that I have the space where
Yeah.
like, the trauma has been healed to be
Yeah.
like that and revisit those from a first time perspective. So thank you for
Oh,
reminding me of all the Oprah's book list.
I
Influencer.
I didn't remember that they were Oprah's book club books, but I think you're right, and maybe that's probably why they were so popular and why I remember them just so vividly, the feeling that they gave me. And another one like that, I'm like, these are all sort of books that are pretty heavy, and
Yeah.
but it's like that's why they impacted me so much, and I had to mention them because to this day, when I think about that reading experience, I feel that story still in my soul. And one more of those is Angela's Ashes, which
Yes.
that might
Oh,
have been a Oprah
I
book
think
club too,
that's
for all I
another one.
know. I don't
That's
know.
Irish. That's the Irish family, I think it is.
Yes, it Frank McCourt is the
Yep.
author of that one, and it is his true life story. And he grew up in Ireland, I think Limerick, if I'm remembering correctly, during the famine.
Yeah.
And he tells this story of just absolutely gut-wrenching poverty, the
Yeah.
type which none of us have even fathomed, most of us anyway, hopefully, and just things that survival that is just it's very difficult to read about, but he does it with this, like, beautiful eloquence in and this Irish I don't even know what it's called. If you have read more than one Irish authors, you can hear it in
Yeah.
their prose, which I love so much, and so, yeah, that's one that is, again, very heavy and hard, but it's done so beautifully and filled with so many moments of tenderness and deep love and neighbors showing up for other neighbors, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful book.
I remember that book too. So I was like, you're just giving me a reading list.
Yeah, oh my gosh, you'll have to tell me if you reread any of these, and yeah,
I
like,
I gather all the books and I go back and put the links in it. And I'm like, I might just start buying these books again.
I think I don't have a place in my house where I have a room for a bookshelf really, and so I
Okay.
don't tend to collect paperbacks, but as I was thinking about these books, I was like, "Why don't I own these books?" These are books
Yeah.
that I would recommend to people if I was like, what are books you recommend to me? Why don't I own these books? I should. So I think this has told me that I need to go out and get a copy of each one
Yeah.
in hardcover.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for the recommendations. Thank you for throwback of the 90s because it was a seminal time. It was a good time to have an OG book influencer because we didn't have social media then. We barely had the internet and we just had our TVs telling us, like, here's the book to read.
Or I think I would read about them in People magazine. They
Yes,
had that
like
little section
magazines,
or
maybe the newspaper. That's
Mhm.
where we get our recommendations. We're doing
Mhm.
podcasts, you know, like maybe the radio, actually, the radio.
Yes.
No.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I love that you know that, all that.
Yeah.
We're there.
I was there. Well, I was a child of the 80s.
Same.
So,
Love
Mia,
it.
tell us where we can find you online.
I am at miasheridan.com. That's my website, but I am mostly on Instagram. That's where I try to answer messages and communicate the most with my readers. So that is Mia Sheridan author.
Awesome.
So if you're looking for me, Instagram and my website.
Awesome. Thank you, Mia, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Thanks for listening to the What to Read Next. For more book lists, cozy reads, and library tips, visit the whattoreadnextblog.com. Your next great read might be waiting there.